Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call Allah Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Kakwadash. Once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders, all right, who continue to teach us truth. Salutations also go out to the Akim out there on the highways and byways, across four corners, pushing this truth in all honesty and sincerity, trying to wake up the remaining hopeful elect. This is Nama with the DC camp, and this is from the Huffington Post, Salaki. And once again, this is another article, one amongst many that I don't know where a lot of you all, I'm talking about our people, where your heads are at, other than up Esau's ass. But once again, this is going to, I hope, prove to you that there is no future here in America, that these motherfuckers that are over us just do not care. Anyway, so it says the Supreme Court just made it more likely innocent people will be executed. And you're talking about a man of blood, all right, a bloody man here, of the nation of Edom, all right, descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. It says, and they quote one of the descending justices, goes on to say this decision is perverse, it is illogical. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissent in Shin v. Ramirez. All right. And it's, I want to call it, well, you know, she likely is a Jake herself. And, you know, but, wow. Anyway, it says already difficult to challenge a sentence or conviction in federal court. And the Supreme Court just made it even harder on Monday. In a 6-3 decision in Shin v. Ramirez, the court ruled that two people who were sentenced to death were not, I repeat, not entitled to present new evidence in federal court, showing that they had ineffective lawyers at trial. So wait a minute. And as they're going to explain further down, I mean, you have these amendment rights, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 9, 10, whatever have you. All right, and I think this is the sixth one. It says the decision increases the likelihood that people who are innocent or otherwise undeserving of their sentences will remain incarcerated or even face execution. You know the history of how this country was founded off free labor, and then after said people were, meaning the slaves, were so-called freed, what did they do? Well, they had to have cheap or free labor. They had to, I mean, come on now. We were in the middle of a industrial revolution. Come on now. So what they did with the prison system, they made a shift. They said, well, wait a minute. These people are just freed. So they came up with all these bullshit ass laws, petty laws. And if Jake were, say, charged with vagrancy, I mean, you just released him off the plantations. I mean, we're talking about some wicked ass people here, you know, take advantage. But so-called white man, the Edomites have always been a cowardly people. What do you expect? So Jake gets put in the system. Guess what? Free labor. And this continues even to this day. Anyway, back to the article here. It says more broadly, the court said a new precedent that chokes off an important avenue for people arguing they were poorly served by bad lawyers. Wow. Can't say that this is a surprise. So you got to understand who you're dealing with. All right, for those of you that didn't know. And anyway, it says if an individual has an ineffective lawyer at trial, and there are plenty of cases, especially in days past, where this has happened, because you got to understand, even though you have a public defender, he still works for the system. All right, don't feed into this. You know, you got the prosecutor and you got the defense attorney, and you think you're all good. No. Still a good old boy system. All right, it's still a racist ass system. And if really at this point If you expect anything other than that, hey, even if you have money, I mean, still. But in any case, let's continue. It says, if an individual has an ineffective lawyer that at trial and then subsequently ends up with another ineffective lawyer who fails to argue that their client had ineffective counsel at trial, that individual may have no way of ever raising the issue in court. So see, this devil, in case you haven't been paying attention the last 20 years, 21, getting ready to be, 21, getting ready to be 21, I'm sorry, since 9/11, all this is by design has been in order to chip away at your so-called rights. All right. Never before then, or let's just say 10 years ago, if you've been paying attention ever since this supposed medical crisis, now they're able to more or less force you into taking something, all right, against your will. And you have to go back before then. I mean, come on now. So yeah, chipping away. Now, Big Pharma and now the World Health Organization is likely to have control over all this shit. Why? Because the ultimate goal was to get something in you, all right, when you go to the, what did Obama, see all these presidents ever since, especially Clinton, they've been adding to, I mean, you could arguably say George H.W. Bush, but I just said especially since Clinton because it's more clear to see, have been chipping away with the executive orders, with Congress and all this weird legislation. And see, for those of you that thought Obama was your buddy, oh man, he really did you in. All right, because the majority of all this gay shit happened under his watch, giving him all these fucking rights. See, the only ones that profited off of the so-called civil rights era legislation were what? White women and the LGBT community, in case you didn't know. All right. Anyway, it says federal habeas review, through which a federal court can review the legality of an individual's incarceration, is supposed to be a safeguard against unfair outcomes in state court. But the Supreme Court has increasingly chipped away at those protections. See, this is what you get. See, we bring out scriptures like Isaiah chapter 30, Isaiah, in fact, let me get it, chapters 31, because you put all your faith in this devil. A lot of you got, just like in ancient Egypt, with our people, you couldn't get Egypt out of your mind. Even when you were being led out of it, you wanted to go back. And unfortunately, even to this day, that's how you know you're dealing with the same people. This is Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 1. It says, woe to the rebellious children, which our people are, saith the Most High Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me. See, you won't run to Daddy Esau. You know, especially the so-called black woman. Oh man. It says, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, iniquity. All right. It says that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, who's the new Pharaoh. There you go. And to trust in the shadow of Egypt. All right. And this, the history behind this. Here is the Israelites. All right, instead of, you know, asking the Most High to do something for them, they go to their enemy, just as they do today, who don't give a damn. And in fact, he is your mortal enemy, and your mortal enemy means, well, let's go and get it. I wasn't intending to do that, but Mortal, in case you didn't know. Definition. Someone who hates very much and for a long time. That's not the one I'm looking for. Here it is. Vocabulary.com. Your mortal enemy. And picture in your mind Genesis chapter 27, verses 38 through 41. Mortal enemy. It says, as soon as I get it, number one, an enemy who wants to kill you. Now think about that. You shouldn't have to think very hard, but think about that. Your nemesis, your foe, a personal enemy. How much more personal since you shared the womb with this piece of shit? Can it be? There you go. All right. So, again, 3, there's consequences to that. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. I'll skip on down here. All right. It says, verse 12, wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel. Does that include everybody else on the planet? No. It says the Holy One of Israel, Yasher Allah. Because ye despise this word, which our people do, and trust in oppression and perverseness, which this place is pretty perverse, and stay thereon. Therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in the high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly and in an instant, and there's no time better as an example of this scripture than the time that we're in now, because this shit, the bottom is ready to drop out at any time. 14, he shall break it as the breaking of a potter's vessel that is broken in pieces. He shall not spare, so that there shall not be found in the bursting of it a sure to take fire from the hearth, or to take water without out of the spit. So we're going to be in dire straits. You people out there that put your faith, your trust in the so-called white man, because he's getting ready to cut everybody off. Because what his ultimate goal is to get you, all right, to take that MOTB. All right, so let's go back to the article. Where was I? Oh, don't tell me I done dropped it. Hold on. Oh boy. Let's see. Salakia. I don't know how that happened, but let's see if we can get it back. Oh boy. All right. There we go. Sorry about that, Salaki. But in any case, let's see what this says right here. The hell is that coming from? Whoa, boy. Let's try that again. Ah, commercial. Never mind. I'm not even on the sound until what I want to hear. You know, here we go. Exactly. It's a reflection on you. The bloody man. No. Nope. Just profit off of people's misery. Oh boy. We gotta get out of this motherfucker. You know, I'll post a link, of course. You can, that's like halfway through, you know, if you care to watch it. But the thing is, you know, hey, 2/3 of our people gotta go, you know. Anyway, so let's finish it up here. It says, um, this is what Justice Sotomayor said. She said, well, before we get there, it says, federal habeas review, through which a federal court can review the legality of an individual's incarceration, is supposed to be, yeah, I've already read that, Salaki. All right, the stakes are particularly high for people facing capital punishment. Despite the common misconception that people on death row represent the worst of the worst, they are usually people who have dealt with abuse, poverty, intellectual disabilities, or untreated mental illness, or they're just not guilty. It says they often rely on court-appointed attorneys, many of whom are ill-equipped to handle death penalty litigation. That's something else too, which lets you know that they don't give a fuck. All right. This decision is perverse. It's illogical. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in a dissent joined by Justice Stephen Breyer and Elena Kagan. The court's decision thus reduces to rubble many habeas petitioners' Sixth Amendment rights to the effective assistance of counsel. So you're sandbagged, all right? It says the Supreme Court ruling in Shin v. Ramirez involves the separate cases of Jones and Ramirez, both of whom were convicted and sentenced to death in Arizona. Both men received abysmal legal assistance during their trials. during state post-conviction proceedings. The time to raise ineffective assistance of counsel claims, both of their lawyers failed to do so. Because of this, Jones and Ramirez sought relief in federal court. There are extensive procedural barriers to raising issues in federal court that have not already been raised in state court, but a 2012 Supreme Court decision called Martinez v. Ryan created a narrow exception for people like Jones and Ramirez, who had ineffective lawyers at both trial and state post-conviction proceedings. For Jones, this meant the chance to present evidence of his innocence, which led to his conviction being overturned in 2018 after he'd spent 23 years on death row. 23 years. Jones was accused of raping and killing his girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter, Rachel, who died in 1994 following a rupture in her small intestine. The state claimed that Jones had assaulted her the day before her death while she was in Jones's care. Had Jones's trial lawyers done basic investigative work, they would have learned that it was extremely unlikely Rachel's abdominal injury could have become fatal so quickly, and that there was no solid evidence she was raped, as The Intercept has previously reported. But the jury heard none of this evidence and convicted Jones, who was then sentenced to death. Under Arizona law, individuals cannot raise ineffective assistance of counsel claims on direct appeal, the first review after a conviction. Instead, they have to wait until their state post-conviction review. Unlike during trial and direct appeal, there is no guaranteed right to a lawyer at this stage. Jones was appointed a lawyer who was not technically qualified to represent him in post-conviction proceedings, as the lawyer later admitted. When the lawyer moved to appoint an investigator, he did so under the wrong legal statute, and the request was denied. The lawyer failed to argue that Jones received ineffective assistance of counsel at trial in Jones's petition for post-conviction relief, and the petition was denied. It wasn't until Jones reached the federal habeas stage of the litigation that he received competent lawyers who, with the benefit of the 2012 Martinez decision, were able to introduce new evidence and get Jones's conviction overturned. A lot of these people that these guys in this situation are assigned, they're in there first for the wrong reasons. All right, they just want to make their bones, all right, build up their cred so they can at some point make a lot of money. All right, let's just face it, that's what it is. All right, so they don't give a fuck. You're just a means to an end. All right. And it goes into this guy's background, Ramirez, but that's the point. You can read the rest of this. Of course, I'll post the link in the description box. You can read it at your own leisure. But point of the matter is, this is a heavily flawed and wicked system. All right. And as such, again, it's a reflection of who you're dealing with. And you expect justice. Why? I don't know. But a lot of people still have their faith in this system. I'm not one of them. All right. Not in a very, very long time. This is Psalms 43:1. This is who you're dealing with, who you're marching up and down the street requesting that he give you any kind of justice. This is Psalms 43:1. Judge me, O Most High, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. All right, they are the wicked. Malachi 1, verses 1 through 4. The point being in verse 4. Oh, deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. This is the prayer. All right. He's deceitful and unjust. You don't have to look far to see these things. All right. A lot of you just don't want to because you're comfortable in this wicked ass system. Hey. But this shit is fading fast, as I said earlier. The bottom is about to drop out of this bitch. And a lot of you are going to be caught with your proverbial pants around your ankles. All right. Feel that hot breeze. All right. Hey, so with that, once again, we're dealing with this wicked ass Supreme Court, such as it's called, Supreme Court. This, goes into the ego of this so-called white man. All right. Hey, so with that, shalom.